Princess Valith Sorani stood at the great window of her chambers and watched the human transport ship descend through the golden clouds of her homeworld. And she felt nothing but cold resignation in her heart. Today was the day her life would change forever. And not by her own choice. The Celestin Dominion needed allies. Her father had explained to her many times. The Hollow Swarm was coming, a terrible enemy that consumed entire worlds. And even the mighty Allery could not stand against them alone. Earth had offered friendship and military support, but they wanted something in return. They wanted a union between their species, a marriage that would bind the two civilizations together. And Valith was the price they had agreed upon. She turned away from the window and looked at herself in the mirror. She stood 8 feet tall, her skin glowing with soft blue bioluminescence that pulsed with her emotions. Her eyes were large and violet, capable of seeing in complete darkness. Her arms were long and powerful, able to crush stone with ease. She was a daughter of warriors, born from a line of conquerors who had ruled 1,000 worlds. And now she would marry a human. Her handmaiden Desha entered the room and bowed low, her own bioluminescence flickering with nervous energy. "The human ship has landed, Your Highness," Desha said quietly. "Your father requests your presence in the throne room." Valith took a deep breath and straightened her ceremonial robes. She had seen images of humans before, and they had not impressed her. They were small creatures, barely reaching 6 feet at their tallest. They had no natural weapons, no claws or fangs or venom. Their skin was soft and easily damaged. Their lifespans were shockingly brief, lasting less than a single Elori century. How could such fragile beings have built an interstellar civilization? She wondered. It seemed impossible, yet they had done it somehow. Perhaps they were clever, like the small scavenger creatures that lived in the palace walls. Surviving through tricks rather than strengths, she walked through the palace corridors with her head held high, and servants bowed as she passed. The walls were carved from living crystal that sang soft melodies as air moved through them. This was her home, the heart of an empire that had endured for 10,000 years. And soon she would share it with an alien stranger. The throne room was vast, a cathedral of light and crystal that could hold 10,000 Allery. Today, it held only her father's court, perhaps 200 nobles and warriors who had gathered to witness this historic moment. They stood in ordered rows, their bioluminescence creating patterns of color that shifted like a living ocean emperor. Kale Sorani sat upon the crystal throne, ancient and powerful, his skin scarred from 100 battles. Beside him stood General Kethvorin, the greatest warrior in the Dominion, a massive figure whose light burned red with barely contained aggression. Valith noticed how the general's jaw tightened when he looked toward the entrance where the humans would appear. "Daughter," her father said, his voice echoing through the vast chamber. "Come stand beside me." She climbed the steps to the throne and took her place. And then the great doors opened, the human delegation entered, and Valith studied them with careful eyes. There were 5 of them, all dressed in simple dark clothing that seemed dull compared to the radiance of the Elori court. 4 of them were clearly guards or advisors, walking in formation around the 5th. The 5th one was him, her future husband. His name was Marcus Cole, and he was the Earth ambassador to the Celestin Dominion. He walked calmly across the throne room floor, seemingly unbothered by the hundreds of powerful aliens watching his every step. He was shorter than Valith had expected, perhaps 5 feet and 10 inches by human measurement. With dark hair touched by gray at the temples and eyes the color of storm clouds, he smiled as he approached the throne. And it was a warm smile, genuine and unforced. When he reached the proper distance, he bowed in the Allery fashion, which surprised her. He had studied their customs, Emperor Kale, Marcus said, and his voice was soft but clear. "I bring greetings from Earth and from the United Human Coalition. We are honored by this alliance and by the gift of your daughter's hand. Gift, Valeth thought bitterly. She was being given away like a piece of jewelry. Her father rose and descended the steps to meet the human. Standing before Marcus, the Emperor towered over him by more than 2 feet, a giant of muscle and light facing a small, soft creature. Earth has proven itself a worthy ally, her father said. Your ships fought beside ours at the Battle of Varus Prime. Your soldiers died defending Allery colonies. This marriage will seal our friendship forever. Marcus nodded and looked up at Valeth, meeting her eyes without fear. She searched his face for any sign of cruelty or malice, but found only quiet kindness. This confused her. She had expected arrogance or greed, some obvious flaw that would justify her resentment. The ceremony was brief by Allery standards, lasting only 3 hours. Vows were exchanged, ancient words spoken, and hands joined beneath the blessing lights of the temple priests. When it was done, Valeth Sorani was no longer merely a princess, she was a wife. The wedding feast lasted long into the night, and Valeth watched her new husband from across the great table. He ate little and drank less, spending most of his time in quiet conversation with the nobles who approached him. He listened more than he spoke, asking questions about Allery culture and history, seeming genuinely interested in the answers. General Kethvorn approached him at one point, and Valeth tensed. The general made no secret of his hatred for this alliance. He believed the Allery should stand alone against the swarm. That accepting help from weaker species was shameful. So you are the human who has married our princess, Kethvorn said, his voice dripping with contempt. Tell me, little creature, what makes your kind worthy of such an honor? Marcus looked up at the massive warrior and smiled that same gentle smile. I am simply a man who tends gardens and reads poetry, General. I claim no worthiness. I only hope to be a good husband to your princess and a good friend to your people. Kethvorn laughed, a harsh and mocking sound. A gardener, he said to the nobles around him. Earth has sent us a gardener to marry the daughter of our emperor. Truly, they must think very highly of us. The nobles laughed with him, though some looked uncomfortable. Marcus simply nodded and returned to his meal, showing no anger or embarrassment later that night. Valeth and Marcus walked to their shared chambers. She towered over him as they walked, and she could not help but think how easy it would be to hurt him. One careless gesture, one moment of lost control, and she could break him. I know this is not what you wanted, Marcus said, as they reached their door. I know you did not choose this marriage. I want you to know that I will not force anything upon you. We can take whatever time you need to become comfortable with this arrangement. She looked down at him, surprised again. You are not what I expected, she admitted. What did you expect? I do not know, she said. Something more aggressive, perhaps. My people value strength above all else, Marcus nodded slowly. There are many kinds of strength, Princess. Not all of them are loud. She did not understand what he meant, but she was too tired to ask. They entered their chambers and slept in separate rooms that first night. And Valeth dreamed of dark things coming from the spaces between stars in the weeks that followed. She learned more about her strange husband. He rose early each morning and tended to a small garden he had planted on their balcony, growing flowers and vegetables from earth. He spent hours reading, consuming Allery literature and history with remarkable speed. He cooked meals for her using human ingredients. Strange dishes with names like pasta and curry that were surprisingly delicious. He was unfailingly polite, never raising his voice, never showing anger or frustration. When Allery nobles insulted him, he simply smiled and nodded. When servants treated him with barely hidden contempt, he thanked them for their service. The court began to call him the pet behind his back, and eventually to his face. Valeth waited for him to react, to show some spark of pride or defiance, but he never did one evening. And she watched him pruning his roses with careful hands. She finally asked the question that had been burning in her mind. Does it not bother you?" she asked. "The way they treat you, the way they mock you." Marcus looked up at her, his gray eyes calm. "Should it bother me? They call you weak. They call you a pet." He returned to his roses, snipping a dead branch with small scissors. "And what do you call me, princess?" She hesitated. "I do not know what you are," she admitted. "You are not like any warrior I have ever known. You seem so gentle, so harmless. Sometimes I wonder if Earth sent you as a joke." Marcus was quiet for a long moment, and when he spoke, his voice was soft. "The universe is vast, Valeth. It contains many things that are not what they appear to be. Perhaps, in time, you will understand." She did not understand. She could not see past the soft exterior, the gentle manners, the quiet demeanor. She did not notice the calluses on his hands, hidden beneath gardening gloves. She did not see the long scar that ran beneath his collar, carefully concealed. She did not recognize the way he cataloged every exit in every room, the way his eyes tracked movement, even when he seemed lost in thought. She saw only what he wanted her to see, and that was exactly how Marcus Cole preferred it. 3 months passed since the wedding, and the palace settled into an uneasy rhythm. Valeth continued her duties as princess, while Marcus remained in the background, tending his garden, reading his books, and being politely ignored by most of the court. It was not the marriage she had imagined as a young girl, but it was not terrible either. She found herself growing accustomed to his presence. He was quiet and undemanding, never interfering with her work or her relationships. He asked thoughtful questions about her day and remembered small details that surprised her. When she mentioned once that she enjoyed a certain type of fruit that only grew in the southern provinces, she found a basket of them waiting on her desk the next morning. "How did you get these?" she asked him. "They are impossible to find in the capital." He smiled and shrugged. "I have my ways." It was such a human answer, vague and modest, and she rolled her eyes at him. But she ate the fruit and enjoyed it, and something small and warm flickered in her chest. Not love, she told herself. Not yet, but perhaps the beginning of something. The court, however, was changing in ways that troubled her. General Kethvoran's faction had grown bolder in recent weeks, speaking openly against the human alliance. They whispered that Earth's military support was a trick, that humans were using the Allery as shields against the Hollow Swarm. They claimed the marriage was an insult, proof that the Emperor had grown weak. Valeth dismissed these complaints as the grumbling of traditionalists who feared change. Her father was the strongest ruler in Dominion history. No one would dare move against him, but then small things began to happen. Her favorite handmaiden, Desha, was reassigned to a distant province without explanation. 3 of her personal guards were replaced by soldiers loyal to Kethvoran. The servants who brought her meals were suddenly unfamiliar faces. "Something is wrong," she said to herself one evening. But she could not identify what Marcus was sitting by the window, reading a book of Allery poetry. He looked up when she spoke. "What troubles you, Valeth?" She hesitated. She had not meant to speak aloud. "It is nothing. Court politics. Tell me," he said, setting down his book. "I may not understand everything about your world, but I am a good listener." She studied him for a moment, this strange, soft creature who had become her constant companion. "The general, Kethvoran. He has always opposed our marriage, but lately his opposition has become more organized. His supporters are everywhere now." Marcus nodded slowly. "I have noticed this too." "You have. The guards outside our chambers changed 3 weeks ago," he said. "The new ones report to Captain Thesser, who is Kethvoran's nephew. The servants who handle our food are from the general's household estates. Your handmaiden was removed because she was loyal to you, not to any faction." Valeth stared at him. "How do you know all this?" "I pay attention," Marcus said simply. "It is a habit." She felt a chill run down her spine. She had not noticed any of these things. but now that he mentioned them, she recognized the pattern. Cathvorn was isolating her, removing her allies and replacing them with his own people. "You should speak with your father," Marcus continued. "Tell him what you have observed. The general's movements are concerning. Cathvorn is a hero," Vela said, but her voice lacked conviction. "He has served my father for 200 years. He would never betray the throne." "Perhaps," Marcus said. "But history is full of heroes who became villains when they believed their cause was righteous. The general thinks the human alliance weakened your empire. He may convince himself that removing your father is necessary to save your people. That is treason." "Yes," Marcus agreed. "It is." She wanted to argue with him, to defend the general, to insist that such things could not happen in her civilization. But the evidence was clear, and she was not a fool. Something was very wrong at court. "I will speak with my father tomorrow," she decided, but tomorrow was too late. That night, Velith woke from troubled sleep and found Marcus standing at the window. He was utterly still, staring down at the barracks below where Cathvorn's elite soldiers were housed. The moons cast silver light across his face, and something about his posture was different. He stood like a predator watching prey. "Marcus," she called softly. He turned, and for just a moment she saw something in his eyes that she did not recognize. Something cold and calculating that vanished as quickly as it appeared. Then his usual gentle expression returned, and he smiled at her. "I am sorry if I woke you," he said. "I could not sleep. What were you looking at?" "The stars," he said. "They are beautiful from this world." It was a lie. She knew it was a lie. He had been watching the barracks, counting soldiers, studying their patrol patterns. But why would a gardener and poet care about such things? She told herself she had imagined it. The shadows played tricks, and she was tired and stressed. Marcus was harmless. Everyone said so. He was soft and weak and kind, exactly what he appeared to be. She went back to sleep, but her dreams were full of shadows. The next morning, she went to see her father. She found him in his private study, reviewing battle reports from the outer colonies. The war against the Hollow Swarm was not going well. Every month brought news of another world consumed, another fleet destroyed. "Father," she said, "I must speak with you about General Cathvorn." The Emperor looked up, his ancient eyes tired. "What about him?" "I believe he may be planning something dangerous. His supporters have infiltrated my household. They have removed my loyal servants and replaced them with their own people. I am being watched." Her father sighed heavily. "Valeth, the general has served me faithfully for centuries. He is loud in his opposition to the human alliance. Yes, but opposition is not treason. I can't accuse my greatest commander without evidence. The evidence is all around us. Suspicion is not evidence." Her father said firmly, "I understand your concerns, but I cannot act on them. To move against Cathvorn without proof would tear this empire apart. Half the military is loyal to him personally. I need them to fight the swarm." Valith clenched her fists in frustration. "And if he moves against you first, he will not," the Emperor said. "I know this man. He is a patriot. He would die before betraying the Dominion." "He believes the Alliance betrays the Dominion," Valith argued. "In his mind, removing you might be an act of loyalty." Her father shook his head. "You are young, daughter. You see threats everywhere. Go back to your chambers. Care for that human husband of yours. Let me worry about politics." She left the study feeling sick. Her father was blind, too trusting of old loyalties. He could not see the danger gathering around him. When she returned to her chambers, she found Marcus waiting with a cup of tea. "How did it go?" he asked. "Badly," she admitted. "He does not believe me." Marcus nodded as if he had expected this. "Then we must be ready." "Ready for what?" He handed her the tea and met her eyes. for whatever comes next. Over the following weeks, Marcus changed in subtle ways that only Valeth noticed. He began taking long walks through the palace at odd hours, learning every corridor and hidden passage. He asked her questions about the emergency protocols, the secret exits, the locations of weapons caches. He studied maps of the palace grounds with an intensity that seemed strange for a gardener. "Why do you need to know these things?" she asked him one night. "Curiosity," he said with his usual gentle smile. "You are lying to me." He paused, and something flickered in his gray eyes. "I am preparing," he said finally, "for possibilities." "What possibilities?" "The kind I hope never happen," he said. "But the kind a wise man prepares for anyway." She wanted to demand more answers, but a knock at the door interrupted them. A servant entered, one of Kethvoran's people, announcing that the Festival of Twin Moons would begin in 3 days. All members of the royal family were required to attend the opening ceremony. Marcus watched the servant leave with careful eyes. "The festival," he said quietly. "Large crowds. Many distractions. The perfect time for something dramatic to happen. You think Kethvoran will act during the festival?" "If I were planning a coup," Marcus said, "that is when I would do it." Valeth felt fear grip her heart. "We must warn my father again. He will not listen. We both know this." "Then what do we do?" Marcus was quiet for a long moment. Then he walked to a chest in the corner of their chambers, a chest she had never seen him open. He lifted the lid and looked inside at something she could not see. "We prepare," he said. "And we hope I am wrong." But his voice held no hope at all. The Festival of Twin Moons began with fire and ended with blood. Valeth stood on the great balcony overlooking the plaza below, watching thousands of Allery citizens celebrate beneath the silver light of the 2 moons. Lanterns floated through the air like glowing spirits, and music echoed from every corner of the city. It was a night of joy and tradition, a celebration that had continued unbroken for 8,000 years. Marcus stood beside her, dressed in the formal robes she had given him. He looked uncomfortable in such fine clothing, but he had agreed to wear them without complaint. His eyes, however, were not watching the celebration. They moved constantly across the crowd, the rooftops, the positions of the guards. "You are worried," Valeth said. "I am cautious," he replied. "There's a difference." Down in the throne room, her father was addressing the gathered nobles. She could hear his voice echoing through the palace, strong and confident. Beside him stood General Kethvoran, resplendent in his ceremonial armor, his red bioluminescence blazing with pride. Nothing seemed wrong. The guards were at their posts, the celebration was proceeding normally, and the general was behaving with perfect loyalty. Perhaps Marcus had been wrong. Perhaps her fears had been groundless. Then the first explosion shattered the night. It came from the eastern gate, a massive blast that sent flames roaring into the sky. Screams erupted from the crowd below as citizens ran in panic. Moments later, a second explosion destroyed the western gate. Then a third hit the communications tower. "It has begun," Marcus said, and his voice was calm. Terrifyingly calm alarms shrieked throughout the palace as guards rushed to respond. But something was wrong. The guards were fighting each other, loyalists clashing with traitors in the corridors. The air filled with the sounds of battle, of energy weapons and bioluminescent blades. "My father," Valeth gasped. "I must reach my father." She ran toward the throne room with Marcus following behind. The palace had become a maze of chaos, bodies lying in corridors, fires burning in ancient halls. She saw servants she recognized lying dead, cut down by soldiers wearing Kethvoran's colors. When she reached the throne room, it was already too late. Her father stood surrounded by the bodies of his personal guard, all 12 of them slain. He was wounded, his bioluminescence flickering weakly, a poisoned blade jutting from his back. Before him stood General Kethvorin, his own blade dripping with royal blood. "Father!" Valith screamed. The Emperor turned at the sound of her voice, and his eyes met hers. "Run," he whispered. "Run, my daughter." Kethvorin drove his blade through the Emperor's heart. Valith watched her father fall, watched the light fade from his ancient eyes, and something inside her shattered. Grief and rage exploded through her body, her bioluminescence blazing white-hot with fury. She charged at the general with murder in her heart, but Kethvorin was faster. He caught her arm and threw her across the room. She crashed into a pillar and fell, stunned by the impact. "Foolish girl," the general said, advancing toward her. "Your father was weak. He sold our empire to alien vermin. I will restore our honor, our purity. The Alari need no help from pathetic creatures like your human pet." He raised his blade, ready to strike. Valith, Marcus's voice cut through the chaos, quiet but commanding. He stood in the doorway of the throne room, small and fragile against the backdrop of burning palace. Kethvorin turned and laughed at the sight of him. "The gardener comes to save his princess," the general mocked. "How touching! Kill him." 12 of his elite warriors stepped forward, the best soldiers in the Dominion, each one a veteran of 100 battles. They surrounded Marcus like predators circling prey, their weapons drawn, their bioluminescence pulsing with bloodlust. Valith struggled to rise. "Marcus, run! You cannot fight them." But Marcus did not run. He did not even seem afraid. He stood perfectly still as the warriors closed in, his gray eyes moving from one to the next, cataloging them, measuring them. Pathetic. One of the warriors spat. "This is what Earth sends us? This is our princess's great protector?" "I will make this quick," another warrior said, raising his blade. "Out of respect for the alliance that will soon end." "Wait," Marcus said, and something in his voice made the warrior pause. "Let me take off my formal robe. I do not wish to ruin it. It was a gift from my wife." The warriors laughed at his concern for clothing at such a moment. Even Kethvorin chuckled from across the room. Marcus removed his outer robe carefully, folding it and setting it aside. Beneath it, he wore simple dark clothing, fitted close to his body, and strapped to his back, hidden until this moment, was something Valith had never seen. A bladed was simple and unadorned. Dark metal with a single curved edge shorter than the weapons carried by the Alari warriors. It looked like a toy compared to their massive swords. But when Marcus drew it, the sound it made sent a chill down Valith's spine. It was the sound of death being unsheathed. "Valith," Marcus said, and his voice was different now, cold and precise. "Close your eyes." "What?" "Please," he said. "Close your eyes. Do not open them until I tell you." She did not understand, but something in his tone compelled obedience. She closed her eyes and pressed herself against the cold stone floor. "Kill him," Kethvorin ordered. She heard the warriors charge, heard their boots thundering against the throne room floor, heard their war cries filling the air. Then the screaming began, but it was not Marcus who screamed. Valith heard sounds she could not comprehend. The whisper of a blade moving faster than thought. The wet impact of metal meeting flesh. Bodies hitting the ground in rapid succession. Gurgles and gasps and the crunch of bone being severed. Movement so quick it created wind that touched her face, and beneath it all, silence from Marcus. No battle cries, no grunts of effort. Just the methodical work of a craftsman performing his trade in 11 seconds. It was over. The throne room fell silent, except for the distant sounds of battle elsewhere in the palace. Valith kept her eyes closed, her heart pounding, her mind refusing to process what she had heard. "You can open your eyes now," Marcus said. She opened them. 12 elite Alari warriors, each one capable of crushing a human with their bare hands, lay dead on the throne room floor. Their wounds were precise and surgical. Throats opened in clean lines. tendons severed to disable before the killing stroke. Hearts pierced through the gaps in their armor that even Elari did not know existed. Marcus stood among them, his blade dripping with violet blood. His breathing was even, his expression calm. Not a single drop of blood touched his clothing. He had moved through them like wind through grass, killing with an efficiency that defied everything Valeth understood about combative Vorin. Stared at the carnage, his red bioluminescence flickering with something she had never seen on his face before. Fear. What? The general whispered. What are you? Marcus looked at him with gray eyes that held no mercy. I am her husband, he said simply. And you killed her father. He began to walk toward Kethvorin, his blade held loosely at his side. The general raised his own weapon, a massive sword that had killed 100 enemies, and roared a challenge. Their blades met. Kethvorin was the greatest warrior in the Dominion, veteran of centuries of combat, master of every form of Alari martial arts. He was 8 feet tall and possessed strength that could shatter mountains. The fight lasted 4 seconds. Velith watched in disbelief as Marcus slipped past every attack, moving with a grace that seemed inhuman. He did not block the general's blade. He simply was not where it struck. He flowed like water around the massive warrior, finding openings that should not exist. His blade flicked out once, twice, 3 times. Kethvorin's sword arm fell useless. The tendons cut. His leg buckled as the muscle was severed. He dropped to his knees, helpless before this small creature he had mocked and dismissed. You, the general gasped. You are no gardener. No, Marcus agreed. I am not. He placed his blade against the general's throat. You led a coup against the legitimate government of your empire. You murdered your emperor, a man who trusted you. You threatened my wife. For these crimes, the sentence is death. Wait, Veleth said, struggling to her feet. Wait, Marcus looked at her, and for a moment, his cold mask slipped. She saw pain in his eyes and compassion. This is your right, he said quietly. He killed your father. If you wish to grant mercy, I will honor your decision. Veleth looked at Kethvorin. This general, who had been like an uncle to her growing up, who had taught her to fight, who had betrayed everything she loved. No mercy, she said. Marcus nodded once and ended it when it was done. He cleaned his blade on the general's cloak and sheathed it. Then his posture changed, the tension leaving his body, and he was her gentle husband again. He walked to her and took her hands in his. I am sorry, he said. I am sorry you had to see this. I am sorry about your father. Veleth looked at the bodies, at the blood, at this man she thought she knew. What are you, Marcus? What are you really? He was quiet for a moment. I will explain everything, he said. But first, we must secure the palace. The coup's not finished, and your father's loyalists need a leader. He was right. She knew he was right. But as they walked out of the throne room together, stepping over the bodies of warriors who had thought themselves invincible, Veleth could not stop staring at the small human beside her. She had thought him harmless. She had been very, very wrong. The palace was a war zone, and Marcus Cole moved through it like a ghost. Veleth followed him through burning corridors and blood-stained halls, watching him do the impossible over and over again. Every time they encountered enemy soldiers, the result was the same. Marcus would step forward, his blade would flash, and bodies would fall. He never hesitated, never showed fear, never wasted a single movement. She had trained with the finest warriors in the Dominion since childhood. She understood combat in ways few beings could. But what Marcus did was something else entirely. It was not fighting as she knew it. It was pure, efficient killing, refined to an art form that her people had never imagined. They encountered a squad of 20 rebels in the Eastern Wing. Marcus killed them all in less than 30 seconds. A group of officers tried to ambush them near the armory. Marcus sensed them before they attacked and cut through them like they were standing still. 2 elite assassins dropped from the ceiling with poison daggers. Marcus had them dead before they touched the ground. How? Velith breathed as they stepped over the assassins' bodies. How are you doing this? Later, Marcus said, his eyes scanning the corridor ahead. We need to reach the communications center. If we can broadcast that Kethvorin is dead, his remaining forces may surrender. The communications tower was destroyed. The main tower? Yes. But there is a backup system in the lower levels. Your father showed me during my first week here. She stared at him. My father showed you the backup communication system. He showed me many things, Marcus said. He was a wise man. He understood that appearances can be deceiving. They pressed on through the palace, gathering loyalist soldiers as they went. Word spread quickly that the princess was alive and fighting, that her human husband had killed General Kethvorin. At first, no one believed the second part. But then they saw Marcus in action, and belief came swiftly in the Hall of Ancestors. They found 50 rebels holding a group of noble hostages. The rebel commander laughed when he saw Velith approach with only Marcus and a handful of guards. Princess, the commander called out. Surrender now, and I will grant your hostages a quick death. Resist, and they will suffer. Release them, Velith demanded. The general is dead. Your cause is lost. Lies, the commander spat. Kethvorin cannot be killed by Mir. He never finished the sentence. Marcus moved so fast that Velith barely saw him. One moment he was beside her. The next he was among the rebels, his blade singing through the air. The commander's head left his body before he knew he was under attack. Then Marcus was in motion again. A whirlwind of death that the rebels could not track, could not defend against, could not escape. The loyalist soldiers behind Velith watched in stunned silence as the small human dismantled 50 trained warriors in under 2 minutes. Some of the rebels tried to run, but Marcus was faster. Some tried to use the hostages as shields. But Marcus's blade found paths around the innocents with impossible precision. When it was over, every rebel was dead. And not a single hostage had been harmed. Marcus flicked the blood from his blade and turned to face the loyalists. The communications center, he said calmly. Which way? An elderly general named Thalvos stepped forward, his bioluminescence pale with shock. Human, he said. What are you? I am an ally, Marcus replied. The communications center. Please, Thalvos pointed with a trembling hand. Down the stairs, 3rd level, below ground. But there will be more rebels there. The backup system is a valuable target. I understand, Marcus said. Princess, stay with the general. Help him organize the defense of this position. I will secure the communications center and broadcast the news of Kethvorin's death. I am coming with you. Velith said firmly, it is not necessary. I am not asking for permission. Marcus studied her for a moment, then nodded. Stay behind me. Do exactly as I say. If I tell you to close your eyes, close them. They descended into the lower levels, where the air grew cold and the lights flickered with damage from the fighting above. Marcus moved differently now, slower and more cautious. The narrow corridors offered less room to maneuver, and even he could not fight effectively in such tight spaces. There are traps, he said quietly. Stay close. She watched him detect and disable 3 hidden bombs, 2 tripwires, and a pressure plate without ever slowing down. He seemed to know exactly where each trap was before he saw it. How do you know? She asked. The dust patterns, he said. The way the air moves. The sounds that do not belong. Humans learn to read these things. All humans. He was quiet for a moment. No, not all. They reached the communications center and found it heavily defended. 20 rebels had barricaded themselves inside, along with 2 of Kethvorin's captains. There was only one entrance, A reinforced door that would be suicide to charge Marcus knelt beside the door and listened. 22 combatants, he said. 2 heavy weapon emplacements. They have hostages, 3 technical workers. How can you possibly know that? The sounds, he said. 22 different breathing patterns. The hum of 2 plasma cannons charging. 3 lighter heartbeats, probably civilians. They are afraid. Belith shook her head in disbelief. Even if you know all that, how do we get inside? The door is too strong. Marcus pulled something from his belt, a small device she did not recognize. I brought this from Earth, he said. It is called a breaching charge. When it explodes, you will have exactly 3 seconds to look away. The flash will blind anyone looking at it. And then what? And then I will go inside and kill them all. 22 soldiers. 2 plasma cannons. In an enclosed space. Yes, she should have argued. She should have insisted on a better plan. But she had seen what he could do, and she was beginning to understand that the rules she knew did not apply to this man. Ready? Marcus asked. She nodded. He placed the charge, triggered it, and pulled her aside. The explosion was deafening. The flash overwhelming. Valith squeezed her eyes shut and counted 1, 2, 3. She opened her eyes to see Marcus vanish through the smoking doorway. Then the screaming began again. She forced herself to watch this time. She needed to understand. She needed to see what her husband truly was. He moved through the rebel soldiers like wind through tall grass. His blade was everywhere and nowhere, striking from angles that should have been impossible. The plasma cannons tried to track him, but he was never where they fired. He used the rebels themselves as shields, positioning himself so they hit their own people. One of the captains was a master swordsman, decorated for his skill in 100 duels. Marcus killed him in 3 moves. The other captain tried to surrender. Marcus granted it, disarming him and leaving him alive in 45 seconds. It was over. 20 rebels dead, 2 surrendered. 3 hostages unharmed. Valith entered the room and found Marcus at the communications console, his hands moving over controls that were designed for beings twice his size. Violet blood dripped from his blade onto the floor. The only sign of the carnage he had wrought. The system still works, he said. I can broadcast to the entire city. Do it. He activated the console, and Valith stepped in front of the camera. Her image appeared on screens throughout the capital, throughout the entire planet. Citizens of the Celestin Dominion, she said. I am Princess Valith Sarani. Tonight, General Kethvorn led a treasonous coup against the throne. He murdered my father, Emperor Kale Soraani, in cold blood. His forces attacked our palace and our people. But his rebellion has failed. She paused, gathering strength. Kethvorn is dead. His captains are dead or captured. To all loyal soldiers, I command you to arrest any who supported this treason. To those who follow Kethvorn, I offer you one chance to surrender. Lay down your weapons now, and you will face justice rather than execution. Resist, and you will die. She ended the transmission and turned to Marcus. He was cleaning his blade again, that same methodical process she had seen before, removing every trace of blood with careful attention. They will surrender, she said. Most of them? The ones who truly believed in Kethvorn's cause. Some will fight, Marcus said. But not many. You spoke well. I learned from my father. She walked to him and stood close, looking down at this small creature who had changed everything she understood about the universe. Tell me now, she said. Tell me what you are. Tell me the truth. Marcus finished cleaning his blade and sheathed it. Then he looked up at her with gray eyes that held depths she was only beginning to see. I will tell you everything, he said. But you may not like what you hear. Tell me anyway, he nodded slowly. Very well. But let us find somewhere quiet. This is a long story. and it begins with a world called Earth. They sat in a private chamber in the palace's eastern tower, one of the few rooms that had survived the night undamaged. Through the window, Valith could see the first light of dawn breaking over a wounded city. Fires still burned in several districts, and smoke rose into the sky like dark prayers. But the fighting had stopped. Kef Vorn's forces were surrendering across the planet. Marcus sat across from her, his blade resting on the table between them. In the soft morning light, he looked ordinary again, just a small, tired man with gray eyes and gentle hands. It was hard to believe this was the same creature who had killed 100 warriors in a single night. "Where do I begin?" he said quietly. "Begin with the truth," Valith replied. "Who are you really? What are you?" He was silent for a long moment, gathering his thoughts. "My name is Marcus Cole, and I am a human being. Everything I told you about myself was true. I do enjoy gardening. I do love poetry. I am not a naturally violent person, and yet you killed more warriors tonight than most soldiers kill in a lifetime." "Yes," he agreed, "because that is also what I am. Humans are complicated creatures, Valeth. We contain multitudes." He leaned back in his chair and looked at the ceiling. "Let me tell you about Earth. Your people call it a garden world, a paradise where soft creatures evolved without threat. This is what we wanted you to believe. The truth is very different. Tell me, Earth is what galactic scientists call a death world," Marcus said. "Everything there evolved to kill or be killed. The insects carry diseases that can destroy entire populations. The plants produce toxins that stop hearts in seconds. The predators are strong and fast and cunning. And the weather itself tries to kill everything that lives." Valith frowned. "But humans have no natural weapons. No claws, no venom, no armor." "No," Marcus agreed. "We have something else. We have minds that can solve problems. We have hands that can make tools. And we have a persistence that no other species can match." He held up his hands, studying them. "Your people saw these hands and thought them weak. But these hands learned to chip stone into blades. These hands learned to throw spears that could kill from a distance. These hands learned to build traps that could catch creatures 10 times our size. And when stone was not enough, these hands learned to forge metal. When spears were not enough, these hands built guns. When guns were not enough, these hands built nuclear weapons." "Nuclear weapons," Valith repeated. "The devices that can destroy cities and continents," Marcus said. "And worlds. We built those too. Humans looked at the universe and saw a hostile place, and we responded by becoming the most dangerous thing in it." He picked up his blade from the table, turning it in his hands. "This is a katana. It is a Japanese sword, designed by my ancestors over 1,000 years ago. Humans have been perfecting the art of the blade for 10,000 years. We have developed fighting styles that treat combat as a science, studying every angle, every weakness, every way to end a life quickly and efficiently." "But why?" Valith asked. "Why would you need such skills when you have guns and nuclear weapons?" "Because we use them on each other." The words hung in the air between them. "Humans did not develop weapons to fight alien enemies," Marcus continued. "We developed them to fight ourselves. For most of our history, our greatest enemy was other humans. We fought wars that killed millions. We committed atrocities that your people cannot imagine. We pushed ourselves to the very edge of extinction, again and again, and each time we survived and came back stronger." He set the blade down. "The Allery evolved as the dominant species of your world. You never had true competition. You grew powerful and confident, secure in your strength. Humans evolved surrounded by threats, including the greatest threat of all, ourselves. We grew clever and careful, always watching for the next attack, always preparing for the worst. And you," Valith said. "What were you?" Before you were an ambassador, Marcus met her eyes. I was what my people call a Spectre. It is a special unit within the United Human Coalition military. We are trained from childhood to be weapons. We learn every fighting style, every assassination technique, every method of infiltration and intelligence gathering. We are sent on missions where failure means the deaths of millions, assassins, sometimes, he admitted, but also protectors. I have killed many people, Velith. Some deserved it. Some were simply in the wrong place at the wrong time. I have done things that haunt my dreams, things I can never undo. But I have also saved lives, stopped wars before they started, protected innocents who never knew they were in danger. He reached into his collar and pulled out the neck of his shirt, revealing the long scar she had glimpsed before. It ran from his collarbone to somewhere below his heart. I got this on a mission to stop a biological weapon from being released on a colony world. 40,000 people lived on that colony. They never knew how close they came to death. They never knew my name. That is what specters do. Velith stared at the scar, understanding now why her father had approved this marriage. My father knew what you were. Yes. He requested a specter specifically. He knew the political situation was unstable. He knew that enemies would try to use you against him. He wanted you protected by the best. He wanted a weapon disguised as a gardener. He wanted a husband who would die before letting harm come to you, Marcus said softly. And he was right to want that. Velith felt tears forming in her eyes. Her father had known. He had planned for the possibility of betrayal. He had given her a protector without ever telling her. Why did he not warn me? Because you would have treated me differently, Marcus said. You would have expected a warrior, and I would have had to act like one. But specters work best when no one suspects us. Your genuine belief that I was harmless made everyone else believe it too. Kefvorn never considered me a threat. That gave me the advantage I needed. She wiped her tears and forced herself to focus. The Hollow Swarm. Is that why Earth truly sought this alliance? Not for protection, but to protect us, Marcus nodded slowly. Humanity has been watching the swarm for a long time. We have fought them in secret battles on the edge of your territory, testing their weaknesses, learning their tactics. They are a terrible enemy, Velith. They have consumed a dozen civilizations that we know of. They will not stop until everything that lives is dead, and you came here to fight them. I came here to help you fight them. He corrected. The Allery are strong and proud and brave, but you are also arrogant. You believe your strength would be enough. It will not be. The swarm overwhelms with numbers. They do not fear death. They do not negotiate or retreat. Against such an enemy, individual strength is meaningless. He leaned forward, intensity burning in his gray eyes. But humans learned long ago how to fight enemies that outnumber us. We learned guerrilla tactics, asymmetric warfare, weapons of mass destruction. We learned to strike from shadows, to poison supplies, to destroy infrastructure. We learned to be patient and ruthless and utterly relentless. The swarm has never faced an enemy like humanity. That is why you wanted the alliance. Yes. Your strength combined with our cunning. Your warriors supported by our technology. Your honor guided by our pragmatism. Together, we can defeat the swarm. Alone, you would fall. Alone, we would not have the numbers. But together, we are something new. Something the galaxy has never seen. Velith thought about everything he had said, everything she had seen. The universe she thought she understood had crumbled away, replaced by something stranger and more dangerous. Humans were not the soft creatures she had believed. They were predators of a different kind, hunters who disguised themselves as prey until the moment they struck. What happens now? She asked. Marcus stood and walked to the window, looking out at the damaged city. Now you rebuild. You take your father's throne and lead your people. The coup has weakened the Dominion, but it has also exposed your enemies. Use this opportunity to root out the rest of Kethvara's supporters and strengthen your position." And you, he turned to face her. "I am your husband. I will stay by your side, if you will have me. I will tend my garden and read my poetry and pretend to be harmless. And when threats arise, I will deal with them. That is what I do." Valeth rose and walked to him, standing close. She looked down at this small, strange creature who had saved her life, who had avenged her father, who carried the weight of terrible deeds behind gentle eyes. "I thought I understood what this marriage was," she said. "I thought I was being given to a pet, a token gesture to seal an alliance. And now I understand that I was given a partner," she said. "A protector, a weapon, but also perhaps a friend." Marcus smiled, that same gentle smile she had seen since their first meeting. But now she understood what lay behind it. "I would like that," he said. "The friend part. I have not had many friends. Neither have I," she admitted. "Being a princess makes friendship difficult. Being a specter makes it nearly impossible." They stood together in the morning light, two unlikely companions brought together by politics and war. Outside, the city began to stir, survivors emerging to assess the damage and begin rebuilding. There would be hard days ahead. Funerals to attend, justice to dispense, a government to reconstruct. But Valeth felt something she had not felt since the explosions began. "Hope, the hollow swarm," she said. "When will they come?" Soon, Marcus replied. "A year, maybe two."